believe the children are our future. Thank you. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride. Make it easier.
Some of the good stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are finishing off a fun-filled weekend. We are coming to you January 5th, 2019. I've got to my right the big, bad, big banks brutalizing with this big brain. Issues of the day.
Howdy.
There you go. As you know, I'm Stroobs. We're working on a couple little drinkies here, concluding the weekend with the NFL playoffs just finishing off. Big Banks, what are you working on?
I'm working on Heineken right now today.
The drink du jour, the beer du jour for Big Banks, of course. I am working on Dragon's Pie, which is a little bit of a concoction here. It's a lemon meringue moonshine with lemonade. Great choice. This comes from the Dragon Distillery in Frederick, Maryland. So very good little concoction there. They mix up their drinks pretty well. Getting right to the political issues of the day. Newly minted Congresswoman out of Michigan. She represents, I believe, the area outside of Detroit. Her name is Rashida Tlaib. She's been in the news for not the best reasons. Here you go. Take a look.
People love you and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, "Mama, look, you won," bullies don't win. And I said, "Baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker."
And what do we say? Do we think the colorful language is warranted? Do we think that's not very professional? Is the media right to sort of contrast and compare that to Trump's unique sayings and his his kind of sessions in the lead up to the 2016 election and his colorful language as well?
I think if that's part of who she is, then fine. We already know what we got with Trump. Trump is a rough, tumble type dude. He's going to use colorful words, common words, simple words to get his point across. She was pretty much doing it to hurt him, to bring him down or just to belittle him. To use that type of language, and especially when you had kids around, this video is kind of, very unprofessional. And it's a bad way to start off your new Congress profession. When you're taking a seat as a Congresswoman, you want to start off with the right way. You don't want to start off with controversy. But if that's what she wants to do, God bless her.
They kind of came into office with this idea that they were holier than thou, or they're kind of trying to be the alternative to Trump's meanness. So, is that a good strategy to try to meet him head on and equal his meanness and his?
No, that's to stay in your lane. Sometimes when you try to fight fire with fire, sometimes you get burned.
Absolutely. That's not the worst of the Rashida Tlaib incidences and issues in her first few eventful days in Congress. We also have her with Linda Sarsour, the known anti-Semite and the known radical who was one of the founders of the Women's March. We'll get to that issue later, but probably not a Farrakhan fan and a person with such kind of negativity surrounding her. Probably not the kind of person you want to be photographed with in your first day on the job, right?
With Linda Sarsour, she comes with a lot of controversy. And again, the first day on the job, you're going to take photo ops with a person with that many baggage and issues. Hell, she should be better off taking a picture with Trump, if that's the case.
There you go. Absolutely. And there's more. Here is Miss Tlaib running away when confronted by reporters.
Reach out to our office and talk to Denzel McCampbell.
We're trying to talk to your boss.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep things unnecessary. Oh, you were?
Oh, okay.
But if you're unapologetic about your comments, Congresswoman, why not talk to us? Dude, stop.
Congressman, do you stand by your comments?
And she doubled down, if you can imagine that. She didn't show any real contrition or any kind of no attempt was really made to kind of satiate her detractors or her people maybe thinking she went too far. Her quote that she threw onto Twitter was, "I will always speak truth to power." One of the most obnoxious and annoying phrases that's spoken amongst social justice warriors in the here and now in today's age.
I just say, when you say that phrase, "I'm speaking truth to power," what power? You have power now.
You're a person in power.
Yeah, so
you're not
you're speaking truth to yourself.
Exactly, and you're not even being truthful to yourself because you believe that Palestine is a country and it's currently not. She's not a fan of the two-state solution. I don't know what her Israel policy is, but I'm sure she would be happy to see Israel wiped off the map. Not a great person representing the fine people in Detroit.
Welcome to the Motor City. All our industry is dying. Our football team went 0-16. All that's left is Marshall Mathers. Come to Detroit. See Eminem, he's all we got left.
My only concern right now, I hope she's not hitting any committees right now in Congress. If so, it's going to be a lot of investigations, and they're going to just bog the White House down with all kinds of subpoenas for documents and documents and documents. Absolutely. So I just hope she just sits on the committee and just tries to be as quiet as she can.
Absolutely. So why do you want to impeach Trump? We don't like him. Do you have any other justifiable reasons?
No.
We don't like him.
We just don't like him.
There you go. Read the Mitch album, the Tuesdays with Maury author. He has a great article in today's, Sunday's Detroit Free Press about the sort of acceptance and his dislike for the acceptance of that kind of language, and how if you're trying to beat Trump, you're not going to win at his game. No. You need to go out there and actually portray yourself to be meaningful of your post, of your position. Actually,
and also put good policies for us. If you really want to beat Trump, put some policies that can beat his policies. Just don't say he's just a mean person and nobody should like him. Tell us why. What policies do you have that can outdo his policies? And then people will probably listen to you.
I'll gravitate to you. This is what the midterms are for. This is why your party was put into power during the November elections, and that's why you now have the congressional majority, a pretty solid majority, as a matter of fact.
Exactly.
You think that's all? You think that's it for the Rashida Tlaib news of the day?
No.
You'd be mistaken. There's absolutely more. We have this kind of also ties into the fake news media and the mainstream legacy media. January 2nd, it was reported by both the Washington Post and the New York Times that Rashida Tlaib, the new congresswoman, would be taking her oath on Thomas Jefferson's Koran, which was kind of meant to kind of stimulate or be maybe an affront to the old white conservatives who thought, if a founding father was so good with this and had his own Koran, then maybe this is wonderful. But
there's more.
There's more to the story. In the intervening days, a lot of people kind of came out and looked at their historical context and the historical context of that Koran and why Jefferson had that Koran.
When Keith Ellison of Minnesota 5th District was sworn in on Jefferson's Koran, the comment was made that this shows the positive influence of the Koran on Jefferson, which shows the absolute lack of knowledge of history. Jefferson was involved in a war with Muslim terrorists, and that war lasted 32 years in American history. It's the first declared war against America after we had our independence. And it was a war that consumed a huge portion of America's thinking and time. Congress in 1784, now we finished the American Revolution in 1783. 1784, Congress sends 3 diplomats. They send Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin and John Adams. Go meet with these 5 nations. Let's try to work out an arrangement where they want to attack American ships and American non-military folks overseas. And after 2 years, Adams and Jefferson had developed such a relationship with the Muslim negotiator that they felt comfortable in asking him some very candid questions, and they did. And the answers to those questions, Adams and Jefferson wrote down, sent back to the State Department. They're still public record to this day. Go online and read them. And they simply asked us again, we don't understand. We have done nothing to you, and yet you continue to attack. Why the unprovoked attacks? And the Muslim ambassador said, it's because our Quran requires it. We're required to make war on you and to enslave you if we can, and we get to go to paradise if we, and he went through all these reasons. And so for a couple of Americans to go, time out, you mean to tell me that a holy book says that if you kill someone, you go to heaven? It's not what our book says. And so Jefferson, he's always shown this characteristic in his life. He does not necessarily believe what someone else tells him. Jefferson goes and gets a Quran and reads it for himself. And it's very much like Sun Tzu said, that the Chinese general principles of war, know your enemy. I mean, these are the guys he's having to deal with and negotiate with. I need to know how they think. So Jefferson acquaints himself with that. And so he gets a Quran. It happened to be a 1746 edition of the Quran that he got. So when he became president in 1801, he said, we're done with negotiations. And he took the brand new American Navy, he loaded up 2 military expeditions, he put the Marines there on the Navy and sent them for the next 5 years. We had troops on the ground going through those nations saying, we're not negotiating anymore. We're settling it now. So yeah, the Quran did have a definite impact on Jefferson, but not in the way that Keith Ellison would suggest.
And realized, oh wait, hold on. Early 1800s, the first couple of years, the turn of the 18th century. What was going on? The Barbary Coast Wars. The wars involving Islamic pirates and folks in the countries that currently make up Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, the areas around it, Tripoli, of course.
He was using the Bible as study material to understand what he was dealing with.
There you go. A people who thought that the spoils of war included turning you into a slave. So what happens? What does the mainstream media? How do they pivot? How do they do the kind of the famous mental gymnastics and journalistic gymnastics? On January 5th, it actually comes out that she didn't actually use Thomas Jefferson's Quran to do her swearing in. Imagine that. So we've got a few factors here. We have the mainstream media acting as a cheerleader on behalf of a new member of Congress, like they've been doing on the Ocasio-Cortez thing for the better part of 3.
Crazy Eye Cortez.
There you go. They've been certainly acting as a cheerleader. They've been in the Ocasio-Cortez, very obtuse attempts at kind of hiding their electoral preferences and policy preferences. It's never been this kind of in your face before.
It's the whole sleight of hand trick. Don't look over here. Look over here.
Exactly, and you see that. So look at your New York Times articles involving Tlaib from both January 5th and January 5th, both the New York Times and the Washington Post. So enough of Rashida Tlaib. In the world of social justice news from your mainstream media, we've got an interesting story coming out of Florida, Miami to be exact. I'm going to let big banks handle that one. This story involves Kalima Campbell and a 300-point increase on her SATs.
No, I did not cheat.
Florida high school senior Camilla Campbell is emphatic, and her attorney insists she did nothing wrong.
They don't accept the fact that she could have worked hard, studied hard.
When the aspiring dancer took the SAT test in March, she got a 900. Taking it again, she improved by 330 points.
I got a tutor, I used test preps, I got my own test book, and I dedicated myself to upping my score.
But in a letter to Camilla, the College Board questioned the validity of her scores based on substantial agreement between your answers and those of other test takers. The College Board told NBC News that last year, 2 million students took the SAT. About 2,000 were flagged for further review, for reasons from the lack of scratch work to similar answers within a group, and given the option to retake the test for free. Camilla chose not to. Tonight, joined by the NAACP, Camilla is demanding her score be honored.
This is something that I wanted to do all my life.
To give her a better chance of getting into college. Rahima Ellis, NBC News.
Big banks, what is your take on this? Do you have an opinion? I want to ask a few questions here. Number one, I think most important, is this racial? Number two, is it fair? Could this be really chalked up to bad proctoring, a bad school district where there have been examples of cheating in the past? What's your take?
I can't speak onto the school, but I can say that if there's any reason why an organization or anything might think that there might be unfair play in a test they may administer, they have all rights to hope and take a look at it. In this situation, she had a 300-point jump. Now, if she studied hard, God bless her. Give her the score, by all means. But it does not take away the right of the organization who administered the test. If they want to take a longer look before they give her a score, that's their right. So to say this is racist and their attorney come out and said this is racist, I think is very unfair before all the information is laid out.
Going right to the NAACP as your family's legal representatives kind of raises some questions too. I don't know if there was any sort of Miami Gardens, Florida. This might be 70, 80, 90% African American school. I think it is based on my knowledge of South Florida geography and breakdowns of those neighborhoods down there. But nevertheless, so fairness, who knows?
We just have to wait and see.
It's a wait and see thing. I don't think it's really the purview or the area of the NAACP to kind of levy a demand for these scores to be made official on a certain kind of timeline. But nevertheless, so we will follow that for you. We're sure there's going to be more news coming on that front. And in Houston, Texas, a story that we perceived initially to be a race-based crime, a possible hate crime. This took place in the days following Christmas. There was a manhunt. Everyone was very concerned that essentially a hate crime took place.
Exactly.
Here are the stories for you leading up to or following the shooting.
That Houston shooting that killed a 7-year-old girl. This morning, police are trying to determine whether it's linked to a previous shooting in the same area as they track down the gunman whose pickup truck was caught on surveillance camera. ABC's Will Carr is on the case.
Hold on, Jazz. Overnight, for the first time, we're seeing a playful Jasmine Barnes. That's the smile of an innocent 7-year-old girl. A life ripped from her family far too soon. The search for her killer now intensifying.
We're not ruling anything out. We take very serious what's occurring. We're not tone deaf to some of the concerns in our community where these could be potentially race-related.
Authorities say Jasmine's mother was driving in West Houston to get coffee with her 4 daughters in their car Sunday morning when, unprovoked, a man in a red pickup truck pulled up and started shooting into their car.
He intentionally killed my child for no reason.
Police releasing this surveillance picture. The suspect described as a white male in his 40s with a beard, last seen wearing a red hoodie. With tips pouring in, police say they're ramping up patrols in the area. The devastation affecting more than just the local community. Celebrities now pleading for help. Actress Gabrielle Union tweeting, "Find him. This evil monster must be stopped." And Olivia Wilde, "Please help find this murderer if you can."
With all the national attention, there's now a $75,000 award. Some members in this community are questioning if the attack was racially motivated. Authorities say they're looking into that. They also say they're taking a second look at a shooting that took place back in 2017 to see if there's any connections.
And how a few days changes everything. Saturday night, January 5th, an arrest was made, and surprise! What do we have here? But looks like something is a little askew here.
Getting to those new developments now in the killing of 7-year-old Jasmine Barnes, shot in her family's car in Houston, where one man has been arrested, a second held as a person of interest, and the suspect now says Jasmine and her family were not the intended targets. ABC's Marcus Moore has the latest.
We are learning new details in the shooting death of 7-year-old Jasmine Barnes, a death her family initially feared was racially motivated. In a major break, investigators have arrested 20-year-old Eric Black Jr., charging him with capital murder in connection with Jasmine's death. Initially, investigators were focusing on the possible suspect, a white male wearing a hoodie. Now we understand the case may have been one of mistaken identity. A gunman opened fire on the family's car early in the morning on New Year's Eve as they headed to a local shop, killing little Jasmine in front of her mother and sisters. Right away, police began searching for a white male driving this red pickup truck.
It's very likely that the last thing they did see was that indeed that red truck and that driver that was in that truck.
Police now believe that man may have simply been a bystander. A tip first received by prominent civil rights activist Sean King provided new information in the case.
We do know that there was a red truck involved. We believe now that that red truck and the driver is most likely just a witness.
Jasmine's distraught family is grateful for the arrest.
It was a sigh of relief that the police did their job and found who they feel is the right suspect.
It won't bring back this smiling face, but the arrest is a small step towards justice for this little girl who wanted to be a teacher.
Well, obviously we were surprised that the suspect was not who was repeatedly described by so many independent witnesses, but for this family it didn't matter if he was black or if he was white.
And Eric Black is expected back in court later today on that charge of capital murder. Robin.
And keeping in mind that Jasmine's funeral is tomorrow. All right, Marcy.
Looks like there are some shenanigans involved. I don't know if this family was targeted. Let us be absolutely clear that no one deserves to die. It's absolutely reprehensible that this young girl lost her life in such a manner. Nevertheless, as Big Banks alluded to earlier, the media sleight of hand. Take these things into consideration. Look at the CNNs and the NBCs, the HuffPos, your favorite Mr. Don Lemon, always purporting things from an attempted real racial discord, racial disharmony. This is ugly. This is not nice what they're doing. This is.
We need to make it abundantly clear that again, losing a life of a child is the hardest thing you can ever happen to any parent. I have kids, and if one of my childs was shot or killed or whatever, I'll be quite devastated.
What we want a little more media responsibility. We want to actually need to follow the trail, follow the elements, follow the aspects of the case, and then don't let just because the story didn't pan out as you expected, it didn't kind of adhere to the narrative that you wanted of a white man shooting a young black girl in a drive-by shooting, case of mistaken identity. Don't just let that story go on to page 15.
But Struve, I still got to bring this out. It's baffling to me that, again, it was chaotic. I understand the stress that the parent was up under, but to clearly say that it was a white guy who did the shooting, but a black guy was arrested, it's kind of odd. It ranks up to, I don't know if you remember what happened in the 1990s when the young lady drove her kids into the lake in Union in South Carolina and said it was a black dude.
Oh, Smith, yeah.
But it comes to find out she did it. Now, see, this doesn't help race relations. It only inflames things. We need to report the right information. Again, my heart goes out to that parent who lost that life of a child. I truly understand. But to say that it was a white dude with a beard, but really when they arrest him as a black dude like me, it goes into question to what was her motive? To why would she say something of that caliber? And then the car, according to him, was a red pickup truck, but he didn't have a red pickup truck. So it leads to a lot of questions. And I think the media is doing a very poor job trying to answer those questions.
Absolutely. So last night, again, to recap, Saturday night, Eric Black arrested a African-American man. There is no racial component from what we can see here, but let's take a look. Let's be very cognizant of the media trickery here and how quickly the story just completely leaves the headlines and and it's not going to appear on nightly news tomorrow night for any of the big three, ABC, NBC, CBS. Exactly. So there you go. Also, we got to talk to you about Sean King, who was involved. He put up a GoFundMe page, so make sure he's staying honest. Talcum X is back in full swing. We were hoping he went away. He's still alive and kicking.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he's I don't know if he thinks he's so woke that it's just going to make him black one day. His skin color is just automatically going to convert from white to black because of his overwhelming wokeness. Is this what we're going for?
Unless you go to a lot of tanning salons, that'll work out too. But I can only say that this right here. If you do have that GoFundMe account, make sure you do right by that money. Make sure that money is going to the victims, and make sure the money is given to all 100% of that money. So please do it for the right reason.
No other causes in the community needs to go to the family. That's what the funding was designed for. So Sean King, Talcum X, you need to be held to account for that. There should be some strong observers in that area. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to finish off today with Women's March news. You remember the Women's March that was assembled to as a consolation prize to the thousands and thousands of suburbanite white women whose dreams were dashed. And
poor white women.
Exactly. Who we rolled back the calendar pre 19th Amendment, and women were stripped of their voting rights after the Trump inauguration. Remember that when that happened? Really, I think the Women's March was created to make sure all those women had something to do. They all had plane tickets purchased. They bought their plane tickets in September, October, November of 2016 to be in D.C. for Hillary Clinton's inauguration. So they had to put on a show for them. It was in the form of a pink hat-wearing, God knows what it was, but they've been getting some heat, rightfully so. They've been getting some heat. A Women's March in Eureka. We tend to think that this is unwarranted and not really necessary. Eureka, California is a pretty white place. It's white as white, lily white. Miles and miles, probably a 3-hour, 4-hour drive north of San Francisco is city of Eureka. Probably not more than 75,000 people in the town, 90,000 people. They canceled their own version of the annual Women's March based on it was too white. It was too white.
A women's march in California was postponed earlier this week. Organizers pulled the plug on the January 19th march in Humboldt County, California, because it was too white. Here to explain the decision, Kelsey Reedy, one of the organizers of the Eureka Women's March in Humboldt County. All right, Kelsey, I thought the Women's March was about being a woman, not about what race you were.
It is about being a woman, but we also acknowledge that it needs to represent all women and not just some women.
So you thought that the Women's March was going to marginalize other women?
Without their voices being represented, yes, that is what we feared. We are postponing it because of a lack of representation from our leadership team and not just the participants.
Okay. Does it matter the race of the women that's in the march? Why does the race matter? I thought it was about the content of their character, not the color of their skin.
So again, this march is not representative of the people in Humboldt County, but again, like having this march be just a response to the inauguration of Trump is really missing the underlying issues, and that's what we want to focus on. So Trump is only a symptom of the larger problems of patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism, which are all under the umbrella of colonialism. So without making sure that we're representing women who are impacted by all these systems, then we wouldn't be doing it right.
Colonialism.
What is your take on that, Big Banks?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's sad that you're going to cancel an event because you can't get the appropriate people there that you're trying to help. Don't cancel the event. Have the event. If you're doing it for the right reason, have the event by all means. But don't use an scapegoat, us, because we're not there, that you're going to cancel it. If you're truly about what you're trying to, the people you're trying to serve, do the event.
And another story, a justified, we believe, cancellation of another women's march in New Orleans, Louisiana. Group organizers, I don't know if they were city personnel, city council. That women's march has been canceled. I think they've been stripped of their host privileges based on anti-Semitism, which has been plaguing and is rightfully now, at least in the
that's kind of funny,
under the scope of the of national media. Folks like Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory are by all accounts, they've said some disgustingly anti-Semitic items and anti-Jewish things in their past,
and associated with people that was not very savory.
Exactly. When you associate yourselves with the Farrakhan's of the world and his reprehensible statements, this is probably long overdue. This is probably deserved. So, nevertheless, and we want to finish up with. There's a reason Big Banks is wearing a disgusting green jersey. His Eagles proved victorious.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
There you go. I'm not going to say they won.
I'm gonna say they won.
The game tonight, as much as the Bears lost the game. An unfortunate turn of events for the Chicago Bears, former Eagles kicker, in that one. Stay with us though. This also leads into our. We gave you the NCAA championship preview. Yep. That game is going to be Monday night. Mm-hmm. We also want to throw your way a short little 3 or 4 minute NFL playoff preview. We're putting it out there after the wild card games because we can rightfully now say that we would have chosen the
right people.
We would have chosen the three road teams that happen to prevail in the wild card game. So we're giving ourselves a little
pat on the back.
Exactly. There you go. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. We appreciate the subscribers. We appreciate all the viewership, and we're going to continue to put more material out your way. Big Banks, what's your take on anything?
No, I'm happy to have y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and it's a lot of work that goes into these videos, and we really appreciate the support.
Throw us some live commentary too. Big Banks loves the Facebook live feed, so send him some suggestions. There you go. Folks, thank you again. Appreciate it. Have a great week ahead, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, you can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all inside of